What is up, guys? It's Verns back here again with another Supercoach video. This time it is the Round 9 NBL review. First of all, just thanks to all those that did tune into the Supercoach Hubs podcast last week. I obviously jumped on there with Barnsey and had a great time. Honestly, some pretty good content, and I hope everyone enjoyed, and I really appreciate those that jumped over and listened to it. Now, as of the podcast I'll be doing with DR, me and him are going to jump on tomorrow night, get that recorded, and it should be out later in the week on his channel. So make sure, if you're not already subscribed to him, which I reckon 95% of you probably are, get over there, get subscribed, and make sure to tune into that video when he gets it out later this week. So super excited to get that recorded. Now, first things first is I'm just going to be honest here, guys. I'm probably going to speed race this a little because I just spent 30 minutes recording a video that I was pretty happy with. I was a little bit less than 30 minutes. I did actually forget that my missus jumped on my computer, I think a few days ago, to upload some photos. I didn't realize that she'd unplugged my mic from the USB slot to plug in the phone. So I just did it with no audio, well, I guess no mic volume at all, and I usually listen back to that sort of stuff unless I haven't really touched my computer over the week, which I hadn't, so I didn't think there was any need to because I knew everything was good from it. Me and Barnsey did the recording, and I just blanked on that she jumped on the computer, and I'm very fucking annoyed right now, honestly. I was very happy with that video. It was a good 30 minutes, and I'm going to be honest, it's going to be a lot quicker now because I am just going to speed race through it. I'm probably not going to break down game by game because I just spent way too long doing that for it to not be recorded. But yeah, looking at our week, as you can see, we are just falling. 123 places down to 432, almost 400 places lost in the last two rounds, 428 for the round score, which I didn't think was that bad of a round score. But I guess the big difference here is I did have Bannon on field where a lot of people probably already had McCall on their team. This is something that it really stems back to a few weeks ago when I threw away a lot of money as well as a lot of points. Obviously, instead of bringing in Doolittle, I brought in Lee, and I was like, oh, whatever, it's going to be fine sort of thing. It doesn't really matter. And we did throw away a fair bit of cash in that play. And the big difference here is that cash could have been the difference between us getting McCall last week and not getting McCall. I wasn't really too fussed about it because I was like, look, Bannon should match McCall. Magnay should match him in money. It's not really going to be too much of a difference. Obviously, Bannon gets outscored by 73 points, so a huge difference. And because of that, McCall ends up matching the money that Magnay makes. So we didn't get a cash lead. We just lost 73 points. So not only did we lose 90 points last week for a misplay, we then stems the bleeding to this round and we lose even more points because of the way it's affected our trades going forward. And it's a bit frustrating that that's happened. And that's obviously where the bleeding's coming from. We're going to get that all fixed up this week. As I mentioned, I'm not really going to go game by game. I'm just going to go through the really quick important ones, which at the end of the day is really just the Cairns games, the New Zealand games. And I'll talk about a few other things here and there because, yeah, I just can't be bothered considering I just did it all. But New Zealand ended up beating Adelaide. PJC, big game, I think 46 points. Lamb, big game, 42 points. Sorry, Supercoach points, that is. So pretty big from them. Good win. Kind of expected over in New Zealand. Adelaide put up a decent fight, but yeah, New Zealand just got out on top, which was great. I'll stick with the New Zealand games. So New Zealand then obviously come to Melbourne, play Southeast Melbourne. They lose that game. Lamb and Cartwright have decent games again. I think 31 from Cartwright, 33 from Lamb. They are really the pillars of the New Zealand team. They do all the hard yakka. They are on the field 90% of the time. And yeah, they had a good round and pretty decent captain score, 75 points. It is surprising to see two other players outscore that on my team this week because that's a big score. And I guess the other one here is Matt Yang, which is a little bit annoying. He got 10, I think, in one game, and then he got 9 in the other, score-wise. He did end up in the second game with 8 points, 8 rebounds, and I think 3 turnovers, unfortunately, which is unfortunate because it's very close to a double-double, and he has given up a few free points in layup-wise. Like, he gets a good alley-oop pass, or I say he gets a good one. He got a terrible one from PJC, I'm pretty sure, in the Adelaide game, which just ended up as, I'm hoping, as a missed shot from Matt Yang. But he threw that way too high. I thought he was throwing it at the Cheatham. But yeah, he did get a few passes, but once again, open layups, he's just not finishing the buckets, and it's a little bit frustrating there, because if he could just finish that bucket, maybe gets up with 1 or 2 more rebounds, and then actually gets a respectable score, that would be nice. But yeah, he's just not really been the pick. Unfortunately, he's just going to have to sit here on our bench and lose us money. Just is what it is, I guess, at the end of the day. Cairns coming into Brisbane. Cairns go down to Brisbane, and I guess the crosstown rival game. They played an okay game. Brisbane managed to secure a win finally after throwing away so many games. Sobey was fine, I think, at 19 points or so. Bannon ended up with 16, and he took a really hard hit in this game, and he seemed fine, got up, kept playing, whatever, but then ended up getting delayed concussion symptoms and had to pull out of the next game, which is very painful. There probably wasn't a lot of people running Bannon on field, because I just ended up in this awkward position where I was a little bit low in cash and ended up having to run him on field, and ended up a lot more painful than most people who would have been running him on the bench, unfortunately. But yeah, Cairns did all right. McCall ended up insane. I think he probably ended up like 6 out of 8 threes or something. He just ended up lining up from 3, making like 3 in a row because Brisbane completely disrespected him. And then he managed to make like 3 more later on. And the thing I liked about Cam's game this week is that they weren't shooting as many 3 balls. They decided, let's not shoot the 3 balls. Let's do the extra work off the ball, the screens, the cutting, to get the passes inside, to get to these mid-ranges and take better shot selections than just throwing up 3s, which we have been the last few weeks. And they were a much better team because of it. In McCall's case, he didn't want to shoot those 3s, but when nobody comes out to you and you got 5 seconds to stand there and line it up, you might as well shoot it. Like, it's basically backyard basketball at that stage. You're just shooting the ball by yourself. There was nobody else around. That's basically what it was for McCall shooting these first 3 threes. And at that point, Brisbane went, okay, you know what, maybe we need to put a little bit of pressure on it. But at that point, it already hit a bit of fire, and he managed to hit like 3 more threes, which was really nice from him. Picked up like 41 points or so in this game, which was really good. Miller only ended up with like the 21. Something I talked about with Barnsey on the Supercoach Hub podcast was I love how Miller is so active in defense. He ended up with a lot of steals in both these games. He always seems to get a few steals, 2 or 3 at least. But he gets his hands in actively, which causes turnovers or steals for his teammates. There was definitely one way he poked it out and it went straight to Miller, so Miller gets the steal for that. But then Miller threw it over the top. McCall scores the basket. McCall gets the 2 points for the layup. Miller gets an assist. So it worked out really nicely for us in that sense because we're running Miller, obviously. Cairns end up losing that one. But then a very different Cairns team that show up against Melbourne. They show up against Melbourne and they were a different beast. 115 points is incredible, especially against the probably flag favourites of the season, to beat them in such convincing style on their home court. It was really impressive from Cairns. And it was a different Cairns makeup. I think Ford turned around, he went, something needs to change, it's not working here. And he grabbed Roberts, he threw him in the starting lineup, and Roberts played big minutes. He shut down Lowell Jr., he got a lot of blocks. He's just a more physical body. Unlike Wonderboy, who likes to play his playmaking center role where he comes out to the top of the key, he wants to shoot the middies, he wants to shoot the 3s. Roberts wants to get down and dirty. He wants to get in the key. He wants to get physical, and he wants to do those center things that honestly Cairns need. And he had a sensational game for them and was a big reason they won this game. Just really impressed by him, honestly. And then Miller came out with a 65-point game as well, which was crazy. He ended up with the 10 assists, so he got the double-double, over 30 points. He was very good. McCall ended up with another 40-plus point Supercoach game, so he ended up with 2 back-to-back 40-point Supercoach games, and that's really impressive by McCall. But to see Miller's ceiling at 65 was impressive. To see this Cairns team was very different. As I mentioned, at one stage, I swear they brought up the stats, and Cairns had only shot like 12 threes or something and made like 7 of them because they weren't shooting many, and when they were shooting them, they were so wide open that they were basically free. Where Melbourne was on like 26 and it hit like 9 or something. They were shooting much less threes, they were looking for much better options, and they were a much better team to watch. And honestly, Ford has the blueprint now. He changed it up, he ran a different team into this Melbourne lineup, and they won. Look at what blueprint you used in that game, and you need to copy that going forward, because you need more wins on the board. And that's what I'm hoping will happen with Roberts, because Roberts is going to be a target this week, in my opinion. He's got a crazy good break even, -10. And if he gets the minutes he got in this game, I think 26 minutes, and he was super good as well. Like, he was very, very good for them. I think there's almost no way that Ford can't keep running Roberts after that game. You win against the flag favorites in a convincing way, and he was a superstar. That was a big part of that win. You've got to do it again. You've got the blueprint, follow it again. You got Sydney next week, so you just knocked off the top team. You're versing the second team, follow the blueprint again, and do it again. So, yeah, I think Roberts is going to be a great pickup this week. But, yeah, Melbourne didn't play a bad game. Cairns just played a better game, honestly. Perth vs Sydney was actually a really entertaining game, just quickly going over that. Sydney shot a lot of threes, looked really good. Bolden, I think, hit 6 out of 6 to start. Might have been 5 out of 5 and then missed one and then hit a 6 out of 7 or something. He shot very efficiently from 3. For those that brought in Bolden this week, great, you got a good score out of him. I don't know if it was the right play, though, because Hunter's back, and Hunter played that game. The only reason Bolden honestly had such a good score was because he was so efficient from outside. He's a good three-point shooter, but he's not going to be that efficient every week. So I think his scores are going to be knocked down, and it's going to be similar to what we've seen all season. He's either going to have a big game or Hunter's going to have a big game. It's unlikely you're going to end up with both of them having a big game, and I think, look, got a good score this week. I wouldn't be super confident in it happening every week, though. Hogg came out, played a great game, hit some 3 balls, hit some good shots, played a great defensive game as well, some big blocks. So 40 points from him, somebody that you definitely, I think, will be targeting this week. Adams, I think, put down 34, was also pretty reliable. Somebody that, once again, should be getting targeted this week. But for Perth, oh my goodness. Honestly, Perth are so frustrating, and they were the devastating team of my Supercoach season, in my opinion. Pinder dropped 43 goddamn points. This man, I brought him in for 5 games over 3 rounds because he was looking really good. And I was scared he would do something like this if I didn't bring him in. He'd drop a 43-point game with like a 30-point game, and he'd go 70-plus points in most of these double game weeks. But no, of course, last round, he dropped 10 and 19. Barely made 29 points. Didn't even make 30. Comes out on a single the week we get rid of him, 43 points. Are you kidding me? First of all, he looked like a different Pinder. Perth looked really good. He got some blocks, he got a lot more offensive scores, but that's just so frustrating to see personally. Like, you're in my team and you're pretty hot garbage for the most part of it, and then of course as soon as you leave it, you just like pop off. Like, seriously, bro? And obviously, Cotton going off rewards everyone that's holding him on his bench. 66 points. That's crazy. That's insane. Obviously went 0-5 to start the game, but then started getting it together, made a lot of assists, and a lot of assists come from when Pinder was actually making shots inside, which helps a lot. But it's also somewhere he just like throws it to the guy on a 3-point line, and the guy just knocks down a 3. Yeah, cool. Didn't really do much. Guy just hit a good shot, and you get rewarded with an assist. But goddamn, Cotton did really well. And that was the thing. Originally, Cotton was always the target for that 5 games over 3 rounds. But because of his poor form before it, a lot of people jumped off, including me. And then he ended up getting it all together and just completely destroyed it. And then even for those that couldn't get rid of him this week, maybe thought they'd hold him for an extra week and downgrade him to Adams next week, they get absolutely rewarded out the wazoo with it. And 66 points is better than most players on their double. Like, that is insane. So just congrats to everyone as Cotton, because they just blew away the competition. And it's very unfortunate for us that didn't have him. And also just fuck Pinder. Just straight up. Taz, Adelaide, irrelevant game because honestly it was such a blowout. It didn't matter. Also, nobody really has those players. I think because it was such a blowout, though, Magne didn't play as many minutes as he would have liked. Sorry, 1 second. I'm not going to edit that out. I'm too lazy. I got to be honest, guys. Deal with it. As I said, I probably would have if it was my last video, but nah, I'm speedrunning it. Magne probably affected because of being such a blowout. They don't want to risk him in a game that they've already run, and he's so injury prone, so maybe didn't play as many minutes as we would have liked because they won so hard, but he was really good when he was on the field, so not too unfortunate there. Adelaide was good for 2 to 3 minutes every quarter. That's not really good enough because then you just got flogged for the other 7 or so minutes in the quarter, so yeah. I don't know what to say. They just got stomped. And Brisbane vs Illawarra. Brisbane ended up finishing off another close game. good for them because they really were just letting all those games slip through their fingers. So hopefully they got it a bit more together now. Saying that, end of this game, Harvey hits the corner to try and make that tie 3-ball, and Sobi gets over and gets a massive block on it. So we were super happy with that. I thought Sobi coming in for a defensive play at the end. I honestly thought Sobi coming on, this isn't a good thing, man. Like, Sobi loves to shoot the ball. He's going to take a bad offensive shot, and he's maybe going to throw this game out the window for you. But no, he hustles hard in defense, and he gets a massive block. And it's like, actually, you know what? That was pretty good. That was pretty good. So, yeah, not bad from Sobi. And as I mentioned, Bannon didn't play. Okay, quick round review out the way. Awesome. Now moving into the next rounds. What are we focusing on, guys? The teams we want Cairns, Sydney, Tasmania, and Southeast Melbourne. Now, I know what you're thinking. It's only Cairns and Sydney on the double this week. What do you mean, Vern? Let's look at this as a 3-week interval. Over the next 3 weeks, Sydney has 2 doubles. Tasmania has 2 doubles. South Melbourne has 2 doubles. And then Cairns has 3 doubles. And that's why we're going to be focusing those 4 teams, because they played the most games over the next 3 rounds. In my case, though, it's not really relevant because I'm not bringing in anyone from that side. But I think, yeah, Hogg's obviously a great target if you've already got mostly Cairns boys you need. But I think the most important people from Cairns, at the end of the day, it's McCall. He picked up 2, as I mentioned, 40-point games in a row. That's awesome, obviously. Like, that's, I mean, let's just go to the 9-point round. Yep, boom. And then while we're here, let's slip him down. And we will have Roberts, boom. Now, just talking about this quickly, obviously I've already sort of gone over Roberts and how good he was for Melbourne, and I can't see Ford not running him more in future. McCall, 2 40-point games back-to-back. He's shown that he is basically a must-have, and for those that already had Miller, McCall this week, they destroyed everyone. I think out of Cairns, you really just need Miller, McCall, Armstrong, and then it really doesn't matter about the rest. But yeah, if you've already got those 2, great. You can look towards getting Adams in, getting Hogan, getting... I mean, you don't really need to force the South Melbourne players. The other thing for, I guess, most people, if you were holding Williams on the bench or something like that, he came with 2 40-point games sitting on the bench. He was better than Wandenberg in both these games. He could have been sitting on your field, and then you got Melbourne playing, 2 doubles in a row next week. So if anyone that held him, congrats again. You just absolutely smashed it out the water. Much better than us trying to run players on the double that just didn't work out. This is the way I'm going to be looking at the team. I think, as I said, I'm going to put money on Roberts getting that role that he got against Melbourne again going forward because it clearly worked. He's also coming into a weak Adelaide side that usually give up points to centres, so he could definitely score well there. Sydney is a high-paced team that have a lot of Supercoach scoring in their games. They want to run the ball. They want to play at a high tempo. They want high-scoring games. And honestly, if Cairns play how they did, I mean, that's going to work for Cairns' favour at the end of the day. We want McCall, we want Miller on the field, and I think just it's going to work in their favour, having a high-tempo game with a lot of Supercoach points, and then going into Adelaide, you'd think they get a lot of points again. So that's why we're running mainly Cairns players on field. At the end of the day, I think Quall's running a very heavy defensive role, so because of that, it's affecting his scoring. Armstrong's not really hitting the 30-point mark either, so I think these 2 struggle to get 30 points, where Lamb's been pretty consistent at getting 30 points a game for New Zealand. He's into Tasmania, who he did go nuts against last time. They might try and shut him down a bit more this time, but it is at New Zealand. I'm going to put money on Lamb to come good in this game, so that's how we're going to go into the round. Roberts, as I said, I think he's a steal of a buy, -10 break even. He's at a price. The biggest thing here is Roberts is a low-risk, high-reward play. Now, what I mean by that is he's priced at about 10.5 to 11 points. So if he comes out and gets 10 points for us, both games, whatever. We paid for what we got. It's not the end of the world. Where if he comes out and scores 20-plus points a game, we just got massive value out of him. So low risk with high reward. Just seems like an absolute no-brainer pick. And as I said, I think he's going to get the minutes that he got in that last game, and I would expect him to honestly be much closer to that 20-plus sort of mark in these games. So, yeah, that's why Roberts come in. Yeah, and that's how the team is looking going into the round, guys. So, yeah, I mean, look, thanks for y'all sticking around to the end of the video. As I said, me and DR will do that recording tomorrow night, so super excited for that. So make sure you jump into his channel later in the week to check out that video. Once again, leave your comments. Thank you for watching right until the end. Thank you for those that have liked and subscribed. And anyway, I will catch you there. So peace later.